Discover the Spain you didn't learn about in school, hidden history, curious past, surprising and untold stories, and the influence that shaped the world in ways you might not expect. In this video from Hispano_Studies, we explore the undeniable impact Spain had on the origins of the United States, from language and everyday customs to cultural traditions that still remain today, and even the deep historical ties connected to the earliest populations of the Americas, especially in the Southwest. Help us grow this new channel by liking, subscribing, and comment.
Our horses, our ranches, our rodeos, the entire romance of the cowboy archetype that became synonymous with the American West. These were born in Spain.
That was Marco Rubio at the recent Munich Security Conference, Secretary of State of the United States, making a point about the cultural ties between America and Europe, and citing cowboys as evidence.
Was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that.
That is AOC, doing what she does best, assuming she's the smartest person in the room and then immediately demonstrating she is not. AOC is wrong because she's complaining that, like, a song isn't originally by the Beatles just because you heard it from a cover band. The vaquero tradition passed through Mexico. Mexico didn't invent it. Mexico inherited it from Spain, whose language Mexico still speaks, which you'd think would be a hint. The American synonym for cowboy is buckaroo, which is just vaquero, said by someone who'd been in the sun for too long. The lasso comes from lasso. The rodeo comes from rodear. And as for descendants of enslaved African peoples, yes, there were black cowboys in Texas, and they probably deserve their own video, but they did not import equestrian livestock herding techniques from Africa, because those techniques did not exist in Africa when their ancestors were enslaved. Spain is located geographically in the far west of the Afro-Eurasian landmass we call Europe. But its civilizational character, the thing that made it capable of building the first global empire, was forged precisely by its movement beyond the West, through encounter with the Islamic world during the Reconquista, through mestizaje with the indigenous peoples of the Americas, through the Manila galleon trade that connected Acapulco to Asia through the Pacific, known as the Spanish Lake, term popularized by French historian Pierre Chaunou. In a way, Spain was so Western, it became Eastern. It is the sublation of Western European Christendom, the overcoming of its own limitations into something universal. And the cowboy is, of all things, proof of this. So here's what we're going to prove today. First of all, the American cowboy is a direct descendant of the Spanish vaquero, himself born from 1,000 years of Iberian history spanning the Reconquista, the cattle trails of Andalusia, and the military frontier logic that Spain applied first in Iberia and then in the Americas. Secondly, the Wild West was never wild. It was legally governed, theologically administered, ethnically mixed, and a technically sophisticated extension of the Spanish Empire. And what Anglo settlers encountered was not empty wilderness, but a mature Hispanic civilization. Finally, and this is the one that's going to make some people turn off the video, so stay with me. The thing that makes America American, not American like a passport, American like a myth. American like the thing the whole world pictures when they close their eyes and think of the United States. That thing was not born in Boston. It was not born in Philadelphia. It was not born anywhere near a Puritan church or a powdered wig. It was born in the Arido-American desert, in the crucible where Catholic universalism met indigenous particularity and produced something neither Europe nor the Anglo had ever seen before. And it was written, every word of it, in Spanish. Consider the three great moments that define Hispanic civilization. First, Al-Andalus, the Reconquista, and the union of Castilla and Aragon. For 8 centuries, the Iberian Peninsula was the site of one of history's most intense philosophical, artistic, and political encounters between Christian and Islamic civilization. The Spain that emerged from the Reconquista in 1492 was not simply Western Christendom. It was Christendom sharpened and transformed by proximity to the Orient, by Aristotle mediated through Averroes, by architectural synthesis in the Alhambra, by the Jihad and the Crusade existing in the same landscape for 700 years. Second, the conquest, the encounter, and mestizaje. When Spain crossed the Atlantic, it encountered the sons and daughters of the peoples who had crossed the Bering Strait from Asia millennia earlier. This was quite literally the meeting of the far west and the far east on American soil. And Spain's response was not simply extermination or pure domination. The Leyes de Indias, the Spanish viceregal legal code, legally authorized marriage between Spaniards and indigenous peoples. The result was mestizaje, a new people, a new synthesis, a new civilization that was neither purely European nor purely indigenous, but both simultaneously. As Reyes López Tijerina, the great Hispano leader from New Mexico, put it, quote, "The mestizo did not come from Europe or from the East. The mestizo was born when the East and the West were joined. That law created a new people, a new race, and the Anglo since then has been preoccupied with the potential of this new race." End quote. Third, the circumnavigation, the Manila Galleon, and the first globalization. Spain completed the world's first planetary commercial circuit, uniting Asia, the Americas, and Europe. The Spanish silver dollar became the world's first global currency, circulating from Sevilla to Canton, binding the Hispanic Empire to Ming China in the first truly universal market. Mestizaje made the Americas the synthesis of the East and the West across the Atlantic, and the Manila Galleon closed the loop, literally, physically, commercially, across the Pacific. When people around the world think about American culture, pictures the same thing, the cowboy. Man on horseback, wide-brimmed hat, 2 revolvers on his belt, riding towards the sunset across a landscape that looks like God left it half-finished and decided he liked it that way. No one outside the United States fantasizes about 17th century Puritan settlers or powdered wig founding fathers, but the Wild West? Universal appeal. The names transcend borders. Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, Billy the Kid, Jesse James. Hollywood exported this mythology globally. Our grandparents grew up on it. Cowboys and Indians was universal childhood culture from Buenos Aires to Berlin. But here's the question that this video answers. What if the cowboy, the thing that makes America feel American to the rest of the world, was never Anglo-American in origin? What if the entire mythology rests on a foundation that is Hispanic, Catholic, mestizo, and profoundly contrary to Anglo-racial purity fetishism? What if the most American thing about America is actually Hispanic?
Discover the Spain you didn't learn about in school, hidden history, curious past, surprising and untold stories, and the influence that shaped the world in ways you might not expect. Help us grow this new channel by liking, subscribing, and comment.